My holiness is my salvation. I do want to make something clear, as I have been mentioning about holiness is really about wholeness. It has been mentioned about sin and now is mentioned about guilt. And so we want to recognize essentially what sin is talked about in the text, is actually this idea of separation. That sin, and mostly the original sin, is the idea that we all are as separate entities and separate experiences and separate ideas and separate minds and completely individual. That is essentially what a sin is. So in the same way about guilt, we have this idea as an independent person and our guilt in various different ways of what we do to others and hurt others, and in no way is this condoning nor condemning any activity. It's essentially more so in the recognition that you have an idea that you're separate, and so you believe that everybody has separate wills. We want it to seem as if we do have separate wills. And I say that because once we have one idea, say the dreamer of the dream has an idea of separation and has an idea that we have individual wills, then everybody has individual wills. Okay? So we all have individual minds and individual experiences. It's almost factual because of what you are and the fact that you have dominion over all of these things. Okay? So in this recognition that you quite literally are giving everybody free will. And this is a beautiful thing. And in this sense, we want to simply recognize that we're coming out of this little box again. We're coming out of this little box. And then this is a recognition here that yes, there is somewhat of a path. And if you notice that the lessons tend to go a couple steps forward, really extreme stuff, and then take some steps back. Let's talk about details here. And then steps forward and talk about details. And in this fashion, as far as what this is about, is we have feelings, right? We have feelings. These lessons are great. Yeah, what are you talking about, Devin? Yeah, dreamer, dream. Holy crap, are you crazy? And let's deal with what's really going on here. Let's get real, right? There's a whole lot of courses and a whole lot of people teaching all about this, and we want to essentially recognize that if I discovered my wholeness, then that would save me from everything. And that's why we have all this ideas of confession and redemption of our sins. And really, we think of those as actions, just like we think guilt has to do with actions as well. But in the same sense as if we are, say, liberated or freed or saved from our sins, what we are saying is that we are discovering the wholeness of everything. Because sin is separation. So, yes, there's a clarification of terms that is necessary to help you understand what this is all about. So it seems a little tricky because we associate it so much to, say, specific religions that use these terms, Christian terminology, right? So it gets a little disturbing, a little confusing when you're trying to confine it into religion, okay? So remember, all religions are within that dominion, okay? All things are within that dominion. All aspects of everything is within that. So you have had responsibility over all of this and your ideas of all of it, and everything has made all of this up. You have made not only your problems, you have made all problems, okay? You have made up every idea of a problem ever existing. Yes, you are responsible for that. And I think you know what I'm talking about. So in this understanding, it's not quite literally as dramatic as you like to think it is. That yes, death and sad and people and Yes, in the physical experience, it's a sad thing. Everything's a sad thing. And we want to fight for our rights everywhere, right? And it's just, I mean, I agree. If it's bodies, if that's all that this is, absolutely, completely agree. But this is a mysticism. And mysticism is the discovery, quite literally, every single Gnosticism of all religions is about recognizing this truth. This dreamer of the dream. All the truth here is all the same. And everyone and everything is essentially wanting this and discovering this. And so what does happen? What with this discovery? Is there any more guilt? Have you ever had a lucid dream? A lucid dream is pretty interesting because within a dream, once you realize you're dreaming, you all of a sudden have no issue with what you're doing and you just are running free, and you might even be flying and breaking the laws that you so adhered to when you thought it was real. But once you realize that you're dreaming, everything's a little different. Now, this goes to a pretty extreme extent, and I'm not condoning anything nor condemning anything, but I'm just saying and recognizing that if you recognize that you want to be doing this life and you're in charge of it, then you have no problem with being who you are. And I'm not saying work in the system, I'm not saying cheating people, I'm not saying raping anybody, I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying those rules are made up by you, and you want them. So if you don't adhere to them also, you're going to be really paying for it because you put those rules in place. You understand? So in the same sense, there's no reason to feel guilty about anything because of what you've made. I have invented the world I see. All of it. Okay? So it's a little tricky because your mind is playing with this idea of guilt and sins and trying to understand it. Don't worry about it so much. Don't worry about it so much. Just relax and just recognize, yes, my holiness is my salvation. It's the answer to everything. To discover this truth will save me from all problems, all difficulties, all everything. So as far as this, say, my unloving thoughts about these history ideas, these people, this thing, this, that, keeping me in hell, right? Because it is a thought that seems to be about someone else, but it's still in my mind. So I'm condemning them, but I'm actually condemning myself. So if I understand it in that fashion, I have to take responsibility. I am thinking of it. No one else is thinking of it. I mean, maybe some other people, but we might agree on that same thing, but I'm hurting myself. So if the dreamer is having that negative ideas and naturally negative experience, developing all those problems. So in that same, the whole reason this is hell, people say this is hell, right? This world is hell. Why? They don't recognize the wholeness. They are making that for themselves. And I'm not saying they, I'm saying you. So all real, honest to God miracle workers in the world have this discovery and know this truth about the wholeness of their reality. All of them. They might say different words, they might have different terms, different phrasing to understand it, but it is that discovery that makes it possible. There is nothing outside of it. There is layers to it. You might discover a layer and put different words on it, a layer, different words on it, different gods on it, different names, a layer here, different things on it, but really it goes to that same one place, and they've always gone to the same one understanding. If you are able to break the laws, you are also the one that made those laws to be broken.